Let's do it, guys. On the go, all the sports talk you need in a nice, tidy 30 minutes. Everything you need from the sports week right here on this weekly episode. By the way, depending on when you're listening to this was released early Thursday morning. So if you're listening to this on a Thursday, please come join us for the Godzilla Media first event. There's only one time you do a first event, and it's going to be Thursday night. Wolf Road at Hooters, the NFL draft party. Come join us. I'll be setting up at 7 o'clock. Draft gets underway at 8. So between that 7 and 8 o'clock window, come by, say hello. We'll talk about the draft. We'll share stories. I'll tell you your ways to win and more. And you fill out your sheet. We're giving away 10 prizes there at Hooters. You have to be there to win. Why wouldn't you want to be? Hang out, have some great food, great service, great beer, and more. 10 prizes, 1 through 10, your opportunity to win throughout the entire NFL draft. Whether you're staying for one pick, 1 hour, one beer, one order, thank you for the support. And if for whatever reason you can't make it out to Hooters, maybe you're listening outside of the capital region, go to GodzillaMedia.com where you can enter our online contest. The top 2 people who get the most picks right out of the 10 are also winning prizes. So come join us Thursday night NFL draft at Hooters, the first Godzilla Media event. We appreciate all the support. And if you're listening to this on a Friday, which I believe most of you probably will, and I say that because we already did our NFL draft special. If you haven't heard that yet, go listen to Matt Verderame break down the NFL draft. If you're listening to this on a Friday, you might have benefited because, as you just heard, I taped this late Wednesday, early Thursday night. So I'm not going to be breaking down the draft and how the Jets and the Giants and the Bills performed and everything else. We'll recap that next week when we get all 7 rounds of action done. So if you're here on the Goz on the Go, listening on a Friday, hoping for draft projections and more, just because of the taping schedule, we're not going to have that. That's going to be pushed to next week. So instead, come join us. And by the way, follow us on all of our social media platforms. If you can't make it to Hooters, at Tom Goz, TOMG, it was easy on Twitter. Getting there with Goz on Instagram and also Facebook as well. A lot of cool spots where you can follow all the action going on for the first Godzilla Media event. So we can't talk about the draft because it's really not completed yet. So let's still talk about football and the big news in the capital region. And that big news in the capital region is a huge signing involving a quarterback. Tommy Grady is coming back to the Albany Empire. Now, for those who may not be familiar with Mr. Tommy Grady, we're talking about one of the best players in arena football history. That's how good he is. We're talking about an MVP. The quarterback of the Albany Empire, who in 2019 won the championship. Not too long ago, that quarterback was on the field at the Times Union Center leading that team to a title. Now he's back for this rendition of the Empire in 2021. Tom Manaz. And I feel like when I say his name, who's the head coach of the Empire now, taking over for Rob Keefe, I feel like it's that old Master Peace song. Make him say, Manaz, Manaz. Somebody play that. Maybe DJ Supreme's back with the Empire and he can play that when they score touchdowns. Here's Coach Manaz talking about, well, Tommy Grady's addition to the team.
Is the best indoor football quarterback in the country, all leagues across. So I think it has a significant difference in what we were yesterday's compared to what we are today. Even though we have a great roster, he was one of the puzzle pieces that we were missing.
My take now with the 36-year-old Tommy Grady, who played at Oklahoma behind the Heisman Trophy winner Jason White and then went to Utah following Herb Meyer and Alex Smith. He is going to light up the league. This is a situation where it's varsity versus JV. I get its age, but it's not as if he's taken off like Lamar Jackson out of the pocket. Tommy Grady is going to be the best player in this league, and if you are an Albany Empire fan, you already know this. I'm telling you something you already know. He is going to light it up. If you've never got the opportunity yet to watch arena football, this is the type of player you want to come see. Empire fans, get ready to start celebrating. Your season kicks off at the end of May, and the addition of Tommy Grady is a big one. Now, I already know the next question that's coming, though. Who else is going to join the Empire? A lot of the roster's been filled. They've been doing a great job on their social media platforms sharing the roster additions. But who's next? Malachi Jones is a popular player in the capital region. Can they talk Colin Taylor out of retirement? I know Joe Sykes recently announced his retirement. Looking forward to hopefully having Joe and Tommy on the podcast in May. Mo Ruffins? Huh? I know Coach Benson, I call him now Boom Boom Benson's coaching here in the Capital Region. Maybe we'll see some more familiar names join this Albany Empire squad. So we're familiar with those names with the Albany Empire, but what's happening out in Central New York, the word familiar or understanding, yeah, we're lacking this in this story. Chase Scanlan is the standout player for the Syracuse Lacrosse team. Now, Scanlan is suspended from the team following the North Carolina game, and then he is reinstated to the team earlier this week. And then he's off the team. And as you can hear in my voice, it's a little bit confusing, and rightfully so, because he's technically has his suspension lifted. He's wearing 22 for Syracuse, by the way, in lacrosse. And if you don't know the history behind that, that is the prestigious number in Syracuse lacrosse. But he's not suspended again because his teammates threatened to walk out. This is something the opposite of Rudy, where your teammates aren't coming into the locker room or the coach to hand over the jersey if Rudy can't play. The team threatens to quit if their best player comes back? Why? What the hell happened? Now, if you've been following this story in Central New York, I don't want to be on this side where I start sharing what I think happened or didn't, because that is not fair to the student athlete. And unfortunately, which I think really made headlines on this, not because of the walkout, these social media comments that started to speculate exactly what in the world happened involving Chase Scanlan. Now, when we're taping this, we do have a little bit more information. This comes from US Lax magazine. They pointed out that the situation took a turn Wednesday when Syracuse.com reported that Scanlan was involved in what police labeled a domestic incident before he was suspended by the team. Now, again, if you read through some of the situations involving the rumors on social media, that could be involving Chase Scanlan. But to have your team quit over what happened, you know that's a big deal. Now, to an update for that later on, Syracuse.com reported that Scanlan, again, involved in what police labeled a domestic incident a day before he was suspended by the team, according to law enforcement. He was not charged with a crime. April 17th, the crime logs an incident on the South Campus. He was suspended, and there we go. Do I think Chase Scanlan's coming back to the Syracuse lacrosse team? No, I don't. If your teammates threaten to walk out on you, you can't be allowed back in that locker room. You have to believe, and this is anything, whether it's lacrosse or football or basketball, that the teammates, the guys in the locker room every single day know exactly what happened. And it's not so much about maybe the type of person that he is, but the type of chemistry, the type of teammate that he is that's coming into that locker room every single day. If your teammates don't want you, they know something happened. They know what went down. It is a fascinating story out in Syracuse of what has happened to the player who rocks 22 for the Syracuse lacrosse team. And unfortunately, we know a lot less than what we know more of. And I know John Desko, the legend on the Syracuse sidelines, there was a dust up there, I'm going to call it on the Zoom meeting, where basically he wasn't going to talk about it. I want to address the reports that occurred in the media. You're all aware, and he went blah, 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 not be traveling with the team, everything else. Kind of had to step in. Yeah. And I talk about stepping is the fact that he was not going to comment on the various questions that were going on. Again, that's US Lax Mag that did a great job covering that story. Chase Scanlan, maybe we'll find out more about this story later on this week. How outrageous is the stuff involving the New York Mets ace Jacob deGrom? We're talking about history with deGrom. He had the start last night against the Boston Red Sox. deGrom lost 1-0 to the Red Sox. First 5 starts of the season, 59 strikeouts for deGrom. You got to be kidding me. ESPN on this stat from their headline story about it. 33 career starts, third in 2021, in which he allowed 1 or fewer runs and failed to pick up the victory. What? 33 times? And 3 times already this season? That's unreal. And speaking about unreal, we have to have the conversation about it is now a guy who is, I want to say just a one-way player, but we've actually seen deGrom have a little bit of success on offense this season. Is there any doubt he's the best player in the National League? Credit to ESPN's Buster Olney, who said that in the preseason that deGrom would win the MVP. I don't think it's even close. Who else would you argue? Acuna, Fernando Tatis Jr., fun, exciting players who are definitely going to get the headlines. But the domination that deGrom has had for the Mets Trout is still tearing it up in the American League. Ohtani is a different breed of baseball player, something back from the past like Babe Ruth. deGrom dominates. His stats are ridiculous. If you're an old school baseball fan or an old school Met fan, I think you've got to accept this. deGrom is better than Dwight Gooden. Dwight Gooden is a legend, no doubt. But can you make an argument that he's better than deGrom? Now, if Dwight Gooden had stayed clean his entire career, we could have, but that didn't happen. So we can't do that. deGrom's stats are better. His awards are better. Everything on the mound, his stuff is insane. And when I'm going to start talking about him as the greatest Met pitcher of all time, Tom Seaver, the legend, all of those things, Met fans, take the bias out of it. Seaver might be your favorite, but match up his stuff versus deGrom stuff, or a simple question like this. Met fan, take the bias out of it. deGrom, Seaver. Imagine you've got the bat in your hand. Who would you less want to face? For me, it's deGrom. The heat, the stuff he has, to get embarrassed you on the mound, deGrom is that good, and he is the best player. Those stats, that historic pace, and the lack of help he's getting from his teammates, there is no doubt he's the best player right now in the National League. What a move for the future history of this world. And I'm talking about content creation, podcasts, YouTube's radio show, and more. And I toss Twitch in there as well, with the news involving former ESPN personality Dan Levitard. If you didn't know this, Dan Levitard was famous for once saying that if you left ESPN, no one would care about you. You would disappear.
Always telling you that the ego of these guys is such that they don't believe they're choosing money over winning. They believe they are going to make the difference. It's happening right now in the sports opinion business, because I told Colin Cowherd not to leave this spot. We were having conversations. Now I'm revealing private conversations that I shouldn't be. Even though it would have benefited us, I was telling Colin Cowherd, I don't think you leave. You leave, you're going to get lost. You're going to do it for money, and no one's going to know where to find you. And we don't do this to like have our voices stuffed in a drawer. We do this to be heard.
I told him to leave.
And you realize this is now happening in the opinion business. Skip Bayless doesn't think he's going for money. Skip Bayless thinks he's going to make a difference, and he's not. Like, that's what's happening. What's been happening with the athletes is now happening in the gas bag business.
Right. Skip Bayless thinks, listen, First Take has 400,000 daily viewers.
I do that.
I'm going to leave, and I'm going to take at least 50% of those viewers away from Stephen A.
That's
Smith.
me. I don't know where you come up with the made-up stat of 50%.
I don't know.
But he and the way that gets distorted is Fox is also telling him, hey, you're that guy. You're the guy, man. You come over here. Look at all this money. Here, you're going to change this. And so it gets intoxicating. And so now we're being recruited in the opinion business. And how much time have we been spending criticizing those who get lured by the recruiting?
And that cut was from 5 years ago. And now, Levitard had signed a deal with DraftKings and his show for anywhere between a reported $40 to $50 million. And this has an impact across the media landscape. Now, I'll tell you, the first thing I heard and thought about when I saw that Lebatard had signed with DraftKings was, wait, what? Doesn't make any sense. My thought process was this. Okay, Lebatard, has teamed up with his former, well, still his friend, but his former boss, John Skipper, for Meadowlark Media. And the idea of the company's interesting. They're going to create content to distribute. Okay, that makes sense. Like, they're content creators. He's a writer. He's a radio host. He does videos. He used to have a TV show, 2 of them. But what I didn't like about the concept of Meadowlark Media was that they thought very highly of themselves. Hey, our content is going to be so good, people are going to pay for us to give it to them. Now, for outlets like Peacock and Netflix and Amazon, and the streaming services and channels, you'd assume it would be far cheaper to make that in-house or to pay someone on your staff than just to buy it. Look, we've seen examples like The Last Dance and others where the content was so good and movies were so good, spots bought it. So maybe the future, they've already figured it out. I just look at it and say, that takes a lot to say, we're going to bank on someone paying us, because remember, content is subjective. What I mean by that is that stand-up comedy is one of the great examples, and music are the great examples of this. You and I could listen to the same comedian in the same song, and three of us could think it's great, and another one could think it's awful and the worst thing they ever heard because it's subjective. There's no real defined character of what is funny or what is good or what's quality or any of that stuff. So that's why it's hard to always make money on that stuff. But even though I don't agree with the Meadowlark Media concept because of how hard it might be, I love where this is going to go with DraftKings because I thought, okay, Sirius XM and Peacock and Fox and CBS, Levitard never fit any of those categories. So when we talked about the pirate ship and where they're going to go and everything else, and this means anybody in really the field, Lebatard and his show is so different because he leaves ESPN. So where's he going to go? Oh, he's going to get all these offers. Okay, where? Because of his political views, he's not going to Fox, and there's not an opening in the lineup. CBS Sports Radio is a very New York-centric station, sports talk 24/7, and that's the opposite of Levitard. NBC Sports Radio doesn't exist anymore. Sirius is behind a paywall, so he could have become the next, as it was reported, he could have been the next Stern or Mad Dog, but those are very different people. Howard Stern, Chris Russo, and Dan Levitard are three very distinct characters. So where would he go? So the deal makes the most sense for DraftKings because they create their own thing. It's Dan Levitard said to the Miami Herald, his pal Greg Cody, he doesn't have to have a corporate overlord anymore. And what I love about this concept is that we could be seeing more and more of this 3, 5, 10 years from now. DraftKings can have their own YouTube channel. DraftKings can have their own podcast network. You don't have to have the traditional media companies to do this thing. And look, someone's going to hear this and say, oh, gosh, you're not in a traditional media company anymore. That's why you love it so much. I am a true old school radio dude. I didn't shake that all of a sudden. But I see things like this, and I wonder, wow, what does the future have for some sports talk radio hosts or content creators? If you're someone, and getting there with guys, you know the theme of the podcast, if you were somebody who's 18, 19, 20, or 21, think about this scenario. Okay, what would you rather do? Would you rather work for a media company who tells you when you're going to be on the air, how long your show is going to be, how many commercials there's going to be? Or do you find it more enticing that you could have a major sponsor sign you to their show and your show can be as long as it wants? You're going to need content paid for by that majority sponsor. You don't have to have your time for a show in a certain time. I think that's more appealing to younger, aspiring sports broadcasters that are on the way. Very interesting to see where the sports landscape goes. Bill Simmons set the tone years ago, and maybe Dan Levitard and his show with Stu Gatz is setting a new tone going forward. Okay, UFC 261. Remember I talked about it being boring? Boring wasn't the case because Chris Weidman's like snaps and it goes viral across the internet. What weird drama that ends up being because some may remember a similar situation happened in an Anderson Silva fight years previous, but that time to Anderson Silva. And then Jorge Masvidal has never been knocked out in his entire fighting career. He gets knocked out by Usman. So we have these viral moments go all across the internet. And UFC 261 turns out to be pretty entertaining. So shout out to all that stuff. But it seems as if the fight fan is now focused less on when Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are going to box or who John Jones is going to fight next. The Paul brothers have continued now to dominate the fight landscape. Is one Paul brother, I sound like the late Paul Bear, right? Like Paul brother. Paul one, I'll call him, because does it matter, Jake or Logan? We'll go Jake, okay? Jake Paul gets called out by Daniel Cormier, and Logan Paul is going to fight Floyd Mayweather? What planet are we on? Like, that's happening. Logan Paul is going to fight Floyd Mayweather in June in Miami. Jake Paul probably is going to get another fight with a UFC guy. Now, if you were smart, Jake Paul would avoid Daniel Cormier like the plague. But that's not going to happen. These guys in a similar situation, just talking about Levitard. This is not a new traditional media guy just going with new traditional media storylines. This is the biggest talk in the sports landscape. You've got one of the great boxers of all time fighting a YouTube star. You've got one of the great MMA fighters of all time fighting the brother who's also a YouTube star. The Cormier fight has not become official. The Mayweather fight is. What is happening in the fight game? where people can just pull up a YouTube video and get fights with Cormier and Mayweather. We are basically at the point when if you had a friend who was huge and jacked and he was at the bar and he wondered if you could fight him, that's the point we're getting to with this. Hey, I want to fight you. Okay, let's make money and do it. Insane. So as good as UFC 261 had with those viral moments and everything else, the Paul brothers, even Dana White was commenting on it, have become the talk of the entire fight game. This is like nothing that's ever happened before, and they're about to make themselves both a ton of cash. Opportunity the other week to talk about all the releases in the WWE. You saw some big-time stars, noticeable names like Samoa Joe and Billy Kay and Peyton Royce, Bo Dallas. There's a long list of people who are cut by the WWE. What fascinates me about this whole storyline now in 2021, and I say storyline, is that is now created by the fans of where they're going to go next. And almost every single time it's pointed to AEW. Oh, and the whole Mickie James garbage. If you didn't catch that story, there's been some firings in the WWE following Mickie James being let go because her stuff was sent to her in a garbage bag. An employee, a popular name in the history of the Divas division, and now the women's division got her stuff sent to her in a garbage bag. But I bring up AEW because of this. I'm still, and I probably will never get off this take, and it may frustrate some of you. I still can't get over how AEW is making money. Like, is the TV deal that good? Am I never going to be able to shake this? And I bring that up because Samoa Joe's going to go to AEW. Maybe the Iconics will go to AEW. And I believe Peyton Royce's husband is Ty Dillinger, who is fighting in AEW now. Are they just going to keep doing this? Is Tony Khan just going to keep spending money after money? And I know they've changed their shows and trying to bring in their own talent and everything else, but that's what I'm very fascinated by. How many of these people will actually land at AEW? Do they need them? Like, when does AEW get to a point? I know they're doing some stuff with New Japan Pro Wrestling where they're like, we're good. We're good. We only got so much TV time. We've got our social media channels that have great followings. That stuff matters to us. We're good with the roster. We're going to stop spending. I brought up Netflix a while ago. Netflix was billions of dollars in debt. Once the pandemic hit and people started to sign up for Netflix, Netflix saw a huge raise in the money they were earning. They said, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be spending millions upon millions and being billions upon, there's a nice reference in wrestling, millions and millions of dollars in debt. They stopped. So everybody who's screaming, oh, you got to go to AEW, you got to go to, I think it's over. Like, I think AEW is not going to sign to every WWE cut superstar. And they don't have to because their product's doing well. And by the way, the Raw stinks. Go check out Dave LaGreca. Love LaGreca, Bully Ray, Dudley. The stuff they do for Sirius, Busted Open Radio. I want to give them a plug. It's one of my favorite shows. They do a tremendous job. LaGreca's rant on Raw. Tremendous job by him. And he's spot on about everything. Best shows Tuesday and Wednesday. NXT and AEW continue. I want to come on the podcast and tell you how great a SmackDown or a Raw is, but it hasn't happened. Those two are still their best shows, and AEW doesn't need a lot of these WWE cut personalities. Two things to close this out. Jalen Pickett, Sienna Star, going to go play for Penn State. Interesting choice there. He gets to play for a Power 5 school. He gets to showcase his skills in the Big Ten. We'll find out if it helps out his career. I thought it was going to be a bigger school. I thought, there's rumors that Gonzaga, I believe, had reached out and others. Good luck to Jalen Pickett. Maybe more people will know about his skill set at Penn State. He's going to give this an opportunity to see if he can cash in there. This is the final Guys on the Go in April. And that's a good thing for the sense that the Kentucky Derby is the first Saturday in May. We get to talk about the Kentucky Derby. Now, for some of you, horse racing is not your thing. Here's what I always say about the non-horse racing fan. Before you go to your next podcast, before you mute me, hang on. Making money is cool. Just have that attitude. If you're going to bet on one horse race a year, and I know a lot of people aren't familiar with the terms, exactas and trifectas and everything else, I'll do my best here to just help you win some cash. And if there's one horse race you bet on the year, do this. Now, I set you up with telling you that this is the horse race to bet on, and then when I preview the Derby, I can't stand this field. I hate it. I hate it so much. I love horse racing. I love Saratoga. I've been watching these races since I was a kid, like way younger than we can actually legally wager on the race. I can't tell you a field that I really can't understand or figure out as bad as this one. There's about 3 horses that I like. I really like just one. That's it. I like the 15 Rock Your World. I think that horse at Santa Anita is the only horse of any of these where I said, whoa, who is that? Okay, that's the horse to beat. Now, do I think Rock Your World will go off as the favorite? Probably not. Essential Quality, the 14 post, looked really good at the juvenile back in November. It's a really good horse. Held off highly motivated. I really can't say anything bad about Essential Quality. It just didn't hop off the race and YouTube and replays at me. Just seemed like a really good horse. Rock Your World, really good horse. Known Agenda. It was like, that's the one horse. It was like running sideways in the wind into Florida Derby. Like, what is going on in this race? Highly motivated, the 17 horse. Second and third, Chad Brown, the connection to the Capital Region Mechanicville Zone. Just don't know if the horse is good enough. Hidden Stash. I know Syracuse fans want to see if Boeheim's horse has an opportunity. The Tampa Bay Derby. Helium was the horse in that, but Helium fought off Hidden Stash and 4 wide. Now, my dad loves Helium. Helium's undefeated. Looked good in that Tampa Bay Derby. I don't have much to hate on Helium either. So I'm kind of going with this. I would wheel, and this is what I was talking about with the Kentucky Derby. You hope for a long shot to finish in second. So I would walk up to the window with $1. Don't flat bet it. $1 wheel bet, 15 overall, $19. Hope Rock Your World wins, and then you get a crazy long shot in second to pay is really nice. Then I'm going to do a $1 trifecta box. Say this when you go to the window. $1 trifecta box, 12, 14, 15. $6 bet, 12, 14, 15. $1 trifecta box, which means those horses can finish in any order in your ticket cashes. So $1 trifecta box, 12, 14, 15. $1 win overall, 15 overall. About a $19 bet for that. So there you go. I thought I was going to win my parlay. Thanks a lot, Sang. So I'm like $22 down at this point. I need someone to keep a running track of how bad it is. But hopefully at one point the picks will be positive, and maybe it'd be a nice one, especially in horse racing, get a nice payout. Rock Your World, who I like. That'd be a good way to start it off. So there you go. Guys on the go. A really short edition here. We didn't get a lot of NFL draft stuff because of timing and everything else. But when you come out to the party tonight, and that's what I'm calling it, even though it's an event, I'll call it a party. Sorry, Dan and Ricky, but it's going to feel like that coming up here. You're going to have a lot of fun Thursday night drafting at Hooters. Again, if you're going to have the opportunity to come in, can't wait to say hello and talk about everything that's gone on over the last few months and the draft. GodzillaMedia.com if you're out of town. And by the way, my boys from Salve are coming in. As they say about my friends, you can't bring Salve kids anywhere. We'll find out if that's true at Hooters. Buy them a beer. Buy them a shot and everything else. All right, catch you guys tonight. And if not, we'll talk again next week.